Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Simone, and I will be your host. The goal of my podcast is to help people explore the past to understand the present. Before we get started today, I just wanted to say thank you to my new subscribers for their support. My channel's just a little over 5 weeks old. Subscribers are checking in every day, and people seem to be enjoying the content. Thank you for listening in. As we begin to understand the power structures that rule us, the construct of the financial system is very important. So over the next few weeks, I will do my best to explain how the financial system works and identify who controls these entities. So let's begin. Have you ever wondered why the world is set up the way it is? How some countries, families, companies remain in power over generations, regardless of their horrific crimes committed against the average people worldwide? How the world has two justice systems, one a faultless system for the haves and another punitive system for the have-nots? Why these same families seem to get away with the war and death they oversee, the chaos their laws create, and the generational crimes these families commit? No repercussions, no punitive actions, no prison time. Conversely, the common man is sent on the front line of a foreign war in a country that he was not taught existed, while his cousin back home goes to prison for smoking pot. At the same time, repeat felons walk around without remorse or fear of any repercussions, committing more crimes. Politicians steal us blind, courts rule in favor of the criminals, and the corrupt media fuels a second civil war. Our youth is shipped off to die in overseas wars instigated by the military-industrial complex. Higher prison population than anywhere in the Western world. Growing tensions among neighbors fueled by the same politicians that are robbing us blind. Children who will not see their parents because of COVID. Parents who will not see their children for the same reasons. Strangers attacking strangers trying to enforce their will and beliefs on them. The government arresting business owners while letting rioters burn down police stations. Does any of this make sense? No, this does not make sense. So why does the chaos continue, and who is pulling the strings? Like many questions in life, the root of the issue can be traced back to money. Money equals control. So to begin to understand the control mechanisms we are ruled under, readers must first have a better understanding of who has the money, who controls the money, and who has the power to create the money. To have control of the monetary system, someone or some entity must control commerce, shipping, and banking. Before exploring these timeless questions of the average man, please take time to take a quick quiz. This exercise is not meant to weight the viewers down with extra work, but more to illustrate how many misconceptions most of us have about how the system we live and work inside of truly operates. As we explore these topics together, like me, you will begin to understand that most of the topics we are taught about how the world monetary system works is in fact diametrically opposite of the way the monetary system actually operates. This information is meant to open your eyes to new possibilities for our nation's future and to improve our communication with others who are searching for better understanding. Even more, with this new knowledge, we can see the current world monetary system is collapsing around us. Thus, the chaos and calls for change by the same people who created the problems in the first place. This war of control of humanity is different from any other wars, because it's a war on our minds. All wars are bankers' wars. There are no exceptions. Each individual citizen must be aware of this modern technology warfare that has inundated the masses with false information while hiding mankind's true state of affairs. Following is a short quiz that kind of highlights the different misconceptions that many Americans have. So I'm just going to do a few questions and provide a few multiple choice answers to my friend Matthew, who's also a little bit familiar with the topics I discuss. He is going to answer some of the questions. If he gets the answer correct, then we'll explain why the answer is correct. If it's incorrect, we'll provide the correct answer and explain the reasons behind the incorrectness, and again, offer the right answer. The United States of America is A, a democracy, B, a federation, C, a republic, D, a bankrupt corporation.
D. Bankrupt corporation.
All right, thank you. Yes, you're right. The United States is a bankrupt corporation. The United States was originally called the United States for America. In 1871, under the Organic Act passed during the Civil War times, the country was passed over illegally to the private banking system of Europe, the Rothschild City of London banks. So we are D, currently a bankrupt corporation. 2, Washington, D.C. is A, a sovereign nation owned by foreign powers. B, the seat of our government for and by the people. C, part of the United States.
Sovereign nation owned by the foreign powers.
Yes, you're right. A, we are a sovereign nation owned by the foreign powers, as just explained in the first question. We operate under their laws and regulations. We are not a sovereign people as repeatedly expressed to us by our government officials. Now we need to understand who controls the world commerce, shipping, and financial systems. A, each country's government controls their own trade, shipping, and finances. B, the United Nations. C, Vatican City via the City of London. And D, countries work together through treaties and contracts to create mutually acceptable arrangements.
C. Vatican City via City of London.
Correct. Again, yes. Contrary to what everyone else believes, we are not a sovereign nation and we are actually owned by a foreign power. What happens to your birth certificate after your parents sign the paperwork in the hospital? A, the original birth certificate is stamped and mailed to your parents within 90 days. B, the original birth certificate is put into the financial system and traded internationally. C, your parents receive the original birth certificate as they leave the hospital. D, the original certificate is stored at the Department of Births and Deaths in each country.
The original birth certificate is put into the financial system and traded as internationally.
Exactly. When our country, after the Civil War, went broke, they took gold, they took loans, and eventually, when the country came around to the Depression era time, the country had no more collateral for the loans, so they decided to pledge the people. And this isn't a new system. The Romans used this system throughout history to enslave and tax the people they conquered. So this isn't new. This is the birth certificate system that's been used by the Roman Papal Empire throughout history to enslave society. So over the last few years, people have been able to receive their birth certificates, but prior to 1999, most people that were born and alive today, birth certificates were actually taken by the hospital and sold to the Federal Reserve System. So this is a topic that we'll get into further along, and it's very difficult for some people to comprehend. But once you understand that it's not a new system, and this is actually the system that we escaped from during the Revolutionary War, in fact, we were just being folded back into it by the Jesuit-caused Civil War, the people who benefit in the long run from the system. So the court system in the United States is a fair and non-biased venue for each citizen, regardless of their station in society, to receive a fair trial by their peers. B, set up to protect society from rape, plunder, robbery, and theft by punishing criminals. C, considered a neutral international court where the king always wins against his subjects.
A fair and non-biased venue for each citizen, regardless of their station in society, to receive fair trial by their peers.
Unfortunately, we would love to believe that, but that's not true. Because we live in an Admiralty law society and we are in fact chattel to a corporation, we are not considered human beings. We are not human, actually, is a word that means subhuman, animal-like monster. So they frequently use this in their contracts, etc., but we are not humans. That's a legal term that they use to discredit actual humans from having rights. So the answer is correctly C. We are considered a neutral international port where the king always wins against his subjects. We are not free people, and we are not treated fairly, and we do not have the right to the court system that is presented to us that we do. The United States of America has gone bankrupt once after the Civil War, once after the Great Depression. B, never. C, once after the Civil War, once in the Great Depression, and once in 1999. D, after World War II.
D, after World War II.
No. That correct answer to that is C. Once after the Civil War, this is well documented, you can look it up. Once during the Great Depression, even the president were bankrupt. And then once in 1999, when this contract that was put in place in 1871, after 3 bankruptcies, became defunct. At that time, our flag became open for capture, is what they call in war terminology. It means that all of the rules that united us a nation no longer existed, and there was a 90-day window for someone else to come in and capture our flag and take control of our country. Luckily, some individual citizens, although our leaders of our nation, our president, the leaders of other nations, including the British Commonwealth, were aware of this contract and agreement, no one stepped in, and the United States literally went into a period of time where their flag, even without war, was literally open for capture. And so that's what happened. Some private American individuals went in, they saved the flag, they re-registered the flag with the United Nations and the ruling bodies, and since that time they've been implementing new world regulations, although, as we can see, they are still fighting the same deep state people that exist, the former Roman Empire that's been controlling humanity for a long time. So this can be really confusing for some people, but this is well documented. You can go on where a group of high-level military intelligence officers, it's called war castles, so you're welcome to go look that up, where it's a former intelligence officer who explains how these military intelligence officers found out what this group of foreign agents was out to do and has been working together since that time to put the United States back on its feet. So and just in case as we're going through this, people are like, conspiracy, I just want to clarify, what government agency coined the term conspiracy theory? A, the Federal Bureau of Investigation to describe crimes of the mafia. B, the U.S. military to describe the actions of foreign operatives working out inside the United States. Or C, the Central Intelligence Agency to describe people who oppose the Warren Report findings regarding the JFK assassination.
C, the Central Intelligence Agency describe the people who oppose to Vietnam Warren Report.
Exactly. This is a well-known document, internal file that was released to the public 30 years ago or something, and it talks about the plan of the government officials, literally the people who did assassinate JFK most likely, calling anyone who didn't recall the Warren Report findings to discredit them and call them conspiracy theorists. And we can see that since the 1960s, this conspiracy theory issue has been repeatedly used to discredit people who were telling the truth. And years later, we find out that, in fact, those people had been telling the truth. It was actually the government that was lying and covering up its actions. So on a final closing of this little quiz, I wanted to talk about the Federal Reserve System. So A, the Federal Reserve System is a European privately held bank. B, the government bank of the United States. C, a bank that holds the United States gold reserves. Or D, a bank controlled by the president that issues the currency.
It's A, European privately held bank.
Exactly. It's a European privately held bank. It has nothing to do with the United States. The IRS is the military enforcement arm of the Federal Reserve private banking system of the European royals and the Vatican. So that is who controls, prints, and issues our money. I hope this little quiz has been enlightening, and that it'll give you some jumping off point to go do your own research and find out about all these different issues because it's well documented. It's just not taught in our schools. Thank you for listening.